There we go. Yeah, that thing don't look too bad. You're right, that grill's beautiful. Well, this is definitely going to be a new set of challenges versus stitches. It looks like where stitches is bad from the back seat back, this one's bad from the back seat forward. There she is, right there to the left. She's home here at the shop, and the first thing I got to do is get this front wheel back on there. I'm hoping that I've got a set of control arms and spindles and stuff off of a B body. Hopefully I can just throw those on there temporarily and be able to roll it around. Back wheels are froze up a little bit, but I love this rat chair. I love that. It's still breaking off, but it came loose. I don't know, we got to get this wheel assembly out of here and pretty soon to move forward, but I want to get this nut off here next. So here we go. This will be fun. Not. When you do this, make sure you don't remove the cotter pin and just go ahead and buzz it off of there. And of course, we want to save these threads, so we're going to do the right thing and just beat the crap out of that right there and drive it out of there, unless we need the fickle pork, but I don't think we will. We'll just bang, 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 get that out of there. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, we got a nut on there now, and dug it around and I found a set of cam bolts, so we're gonna go ahead and put those in there. There's no bushing on the back side, but for this, who cares? Again, it's just about rollage. Okay, so I put a new torsion bar in there, right there. That'll keep this side of the car up nice, so that's all fixed now. And we got our upper control arm bushings are nice and tight, so that's good. Lower ball joint is tight, so all we gotta do is put a wheel on it now, and then we should be able to set it down and roll it around. Oops, our torsion bar's falling out. Let's get that back up in there. We don't want to lose that. That's yeah, it's important. All right, there we go. That's that'll do. Okay. All right, let's get a wheel on there. Looks like our torsion bar is staying in there okay, so that's good. We're golden. Golden mullet. Wow. Okay, well, it's on its feet now. It still doesn't roll, so we got to go around and jack up each wheel and find out why and get those loose and then be able to get it off the trailer. Shouldn't be that big a deal. I'm just tired and lazy and don't feel like doing this, but it's got to be done. Got to return the trailer to my nephew. It's his trailer, and I need to get back to him tomorrow, so... We're going to see if we can get this stuck slant 6 to roll over. I don't know. It's worth a shot. Let's see what happens. I've been like waiting for the planets to align for quite a while to have just a spare minute to try this. When I got this car, I was told that the motor was supposedly free, and I can promise you it's not now. So we're going to assume that it's only been stuck for a short time, like a couple years, or maybe it's a couple decades. Oh, look, it's got the original Mopar Certicard still in it. Isn't that cool? I better take that out of there before it gets stowed. So anyway, I got to pull the radiator out and get access to the crank. There's no room really down in there to do anything. So, and this radiator I think is good. It's one of those, you know, smushed tank radiators. It's a factory option. It's got extra clearance here. And so that's nice if you need some extra clearance on the tank over here. But I'm going to go ahead and pop this out of here, and I'll be back in just a minute. Well, that took way longer than it should have. There we go. Actually, the core is pretty good on that. It's too bad the tank is crushed. But I guess we could get it fixed if we needed to. Good. Now we got to get the fan off of here so we can access the, fully access the crank is what needs to happen next. Of course, I don't have that socket with me, so I'll be back. All right, we've got the whole front of the motor cleaned off now, so I'm going to go get a little tool to put on there. There's no bolt in there. I don't know if there's supposed to be or not, but there's not. So there's no bolt to grab on that. I have no idea how that's supposed to be, but I have some options and some thoughts on how we might be able to get that to move. So I'll be right back after a brief word from nobody. It is windier than a windy thing out here. Hopefully my microphones are working well. I'm going through and pulling out the plug right now. Plugs. See if we can figure out what's going on. I thought we were. That one's pretty stuck. Hokey diners. Okay, I think we need a little extension for that thing. Man, even with the an extension and a regular ratchet, I can't get that bugger loose. So we're going to hit the old arrow coil on it and try to work it back and forth a little bit and see what we can do. I don't really want to snap it off. Not that I'm trying to save the engine, of course, but still. There we go. That helped a lot. So a little doobadobber on there makes all the difference in the world. Well, there we go. Apparently, I'm not supposed to see that spark plug for some reason. I don't even know where the heck it went. And that right there, boys and girls, is probably the cylinder that's giving us the problem. Look at all the rust. So this hasn't turned for a while, I would say. For those that are wondering, that was cylinder number 3. So I really need to disconnect these hoses here. They're just in the way is what I'm trying to say. Okay, there we go. Let's do, we got number 4 out. That one's good. Let's get number 5 out. Maybe, hopefully, kind of, sort of. Number 6. Hopefully it's just the one cylinder. Very good. So it looks like it's cylinder number 3 is the one causing the issue. So I'm going to start stroking this down with Croil. Don't want to get too carried away. Stuff is expensive. But I got to get enough in there to make it worthwhile. I think at this point the only hope that I have, and I'm pretty sure that's the only stuck cylinder, but I'll go ahead and spray some Croil and all the rest of them. But I think the only hope that we have is just to soak it for a while. And we'll just keep gently working at it and see if we can get it to break loose. So this isn't going to be done in one day. I was hoping that it would be pretty simple. I actually put my big pipe wrench on it with a big pipe, and it didn't want to turn. I've tried the starter on this before, so I knew it was pretty stuck. So I'm going to go through and spray coil on all of those, and then I guess I need to decide how much effort I want to put into that. I'm going to give it a few days. We'll see what it does. And it wouldn't be a big deal to pop the head off because there's no exhaust on it anyway. I'm just really curious to see if we can get this thing to spin over and fire up. I've got enough six-cylinder stuff around here, even though I just sold one. And I've got another one for sale with only 47,000 miles if you know anybody's looking for a slant six. And I think I've got a slant six transmission here that's only got like 10 or 12,000 miles on it. So, you know, stuff I want to move. But anyway, that's not the point of this. I'm just curious to see if we can get this thing fired up. Just because, you know, it's one of those things I'm not going to put a lot of time into. Like today, I spent more time looking for my big 4-foot pipe wrench than I did actually working on the car. But I had hung it on the wall, and that's where it belongs, and that's why I couldn't find it. We'll let that go. We'll let that soak for a few days, and I'll just come out and tap on it real quick with the wrench once in a while. We'll see what we can do with it. So stick around. There's a lot more coming yet on this one. It's probably been soaking now for 3 or 4 weeks, I would guess. I come out here and tug on it once in a while, see what we can do, spray some more liquid in it, stuff like that. I'm going to tug on it here again. It's been a little while. But I think we're going to need to step up our game and do something a little bit different here. And I got some ideas of what we might do. But let's put our wrench on there and just see what happens. I'm hoping I'll be pleasantly surprised. And oh, I got my bolts in the wrong holes. I got to come this way. I keep hoping it will just pop. But I'm bending the bolts so bad now. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. Now, I'm not really getting the pull on it that I want. So I think what I want to do is I want to step it up, and I want to, I'll take these bolts back out, and I want to make a plate to go on here and weld a piece of pipe on it that sticks out a ways so I can really get a good purchase on that crank and see if I can get some good leverage, you know, because with a long enough lever, you can move the world. I'm hoping I have a nice piece of like 1/4-inch plate that I can take and drill the 3 holes to bolt that to the front of that crank and then weld a pipe onto that so that I can really get a good purchase on that and try to see what I can do. I don't know if I'm going to get a good enough penetration with my welder to do that or not, but I think I'll get more leverage than I'm getting now, and that's really going to indicate to me whether or not I can take that to the next level. I know I had some really nice thick plate. I'm not seeing it. Wonder what happened to that. I had 2 long pieces about so big that was a 1/4-inch plate. So I'll dig around here in the metal rack and see what I can come up with for some options, and we'll be right back. Made myself a little cardboard template, so now I know where all the holes are. Now this one, and this one, I believe, are the 3 that are most important. So I'll let that dry, then I'll take and mark those with a marker, and now I've got a little hole template I can use on this piece of plate to make a plate that bolt on there tight, and then I can have a piece of pipe welded to that that's about 4 inches long to put that pipe wrench on and try to break that loose. There we go. Got my little circle cut out. Did it with the torch. Needs to clean up, but I don't care. So I'm going to go around and dimension it a little bit and figure out exactly where my center is. And then I've got a piece of pipe somewhere. Oh, it's laying over there by the lathe. And I'll cut off a stub about so long. And then we'll get it trued up so it's nice and square, and we'll weld it on the middle. There we go. I cleaned it up. I trued up the end a little bit. And I think that's going to be good. So I just did a little hand polish on it and then trimmed up the end a little bit with the lathe. So it's fairly square. It's not perfect. I'm not trying to make it you know, within 10,000ths or even 1,000ths. It's just getting it somewhat close. So when I put it on that plate, it's fairly square, and we'll still square it up over there. But I need to get that plate cleaned up now, so we'll get that done. And there we go. My adapter is on there. It could have all been a waste of time, but you know, we'll see. I got one bolt that won't tighten down real well, but I think it's good enough for, I'm going to get a lot more leverage on it. So let's get the camera set up here and see if we make any progress on breaking that little puppy loose. I don't know what to expect, but you know, it'll be what it is. And my wrench is stuck. There we go. Gotta be careful I don't break my grill. It's a perfect grill. I may need to get a little better wrench. I've never really used this one. I bought it at a estate sale a while ago, and there was a 6-inch one at another thing I was at just recently, and I really seriously thought about buying it, but I decided I was going to go ahead and try this instead. So, and if I really wanted to get in there, I would pull that water pump off, but let's just see. Yep. I'm crushing the pipe. And that one bolt on top that I was concerned about did slip, pop out. So we're going to need to fix that. But I can get some definite torque on it now. That engine is stuck. I don't think we're going to get that broke loose this way. That's the most leverage I've ever gotten on it, 100%. I think this bolt up top here that popped, I don't think the threads are stripped in the pulley. I think the bolt itself is just rusty enough that it's not holding. So the other two are holding good. So let me see if I can find another bolt for that one. I tried this bolt in a different hole and it wouldn't tighten, and I put it in this hole and I thought it did, but it didn't feel quite right. So I'm quite sure the bolt is just rusty enough. The threads aren't big. Got another bolt in there. Let's see if we can do it. Good. There it goes. Yes. We got it broke loose. My little theory worked. Very good. Now, our next step is going to be getting a bunch of oil down in there and getting a starter on it. But that's progress. 100%. That was just Croyle for about 4 weeks. I just kept squirting it in there. And, you know, every few days to a week I would come out. So I probably did it 4 or 5 times. So now I just got a mixture of gasoline and oil that I'm going to squirt in the cylinders now. I did squirt some more Croyle in there. But I just want to get a bunch down in there, let that soak around real good. And then we'll crank it over some more. I don't know if this starter works or not, because the motor was locked up. I couldn't tell, obviously, but it's broken. I've got another one for it, and I'm pretty sure it's good. So we may throw that on there. But I'm about out of time for today. I've only spent a couple hours dinking around with this, but I'm having so much fun. I hate to quit, you know. Beck was supposed to be gone away this evening, and then her plans changed, which is fine. I'd rather she be home than not. So this is much rather spend time with her. But I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I might have peed a little. It was number 3 was the one spark plug that was rusty. So, okay, we put quite a bit in there. Let's see what we got now. Obviously, I moved this way out here. Oh, yeah. I am so excited. It's definitely got a chatter to it, but it's getting better. So I think if we can get the starter going on it, it's getting better the more I do it. So very cool. It's definitely got a chatter. I'm gonna squirt some more in there, and then we'll just let her go for the night. And if the weather's decent, maybe tomorrow we'll be able to get back out here and mess around with it. Come on. I think my cup is running dry here. Whoops, sorry guys. My microphone just fell off. Okay. My little jug is empty, so. Oh. Yeah, she's just getting better all the time. So I think if we can hit that with a start, it's got a tight spot. I'm sure there's rust in the cylinder. Okay, very good. Just spent a little bit of time trying to get the starter to work, and that one doesn't work. So I drug out the one I thought was good, and that one doesn't work either. So I've got a mini starter somewhere, probably upstairs in the charger section. I'll dig that up, and we'll see if that one works. And if it does, I don't know if I'll get time today, but I will swap that mini starter on there so we can start cranking that motor over by the starter rather than by hand. I did spin it over a little bit today. Still got a tight spot, but I know it's going to loosen up once I get some more lubrication in the cylinders and just get it whipping over. So I'm going to go upstairs and dig for that, and I don't have but a few minutes today. This is just a little mini bite today. I came home for lunch late. I was on service calls all morning, but tomorrow, hopefully, I should have some time. Okay, so I found 2 more of those starters, and they're locked up tighter than a tight thing, but I did finally find my mini starter. It was sitting right there in that bench, and that's where I put it because I wanted to take it to a auto electric place and get it rebuilt for sure. I fixed it, contacts inside, which is typical of those Denso starters, but I hadn't done that. So, but it works anyway. Let's go out here and show you. So I got it right here. So I think we'll be good to go. So I got a couple more minutes. I found it quicker than I thought. I'll see if I can blow that starter off of there, and we'll throw it on there, see if we get this to crank over. All right, starter's on. Let's see what we got. Blowing a bunch of oil out. That's good. Blowing a bunch of water out. Very good. Oh, wow. We've even got all the plug wires here for the most part. Yep, they're all there. And is the coil here? Nope, coil's not here, so we'll have to do that. And this is probably a points distributor, so we'll have to do that. Clean the points, I'm sure. But that's not today's project. So I want to scoot some more oil down through her and crank it over a little bit more, and then probably is about all I can get done today. But again, it's about little bites, right? So I just squirted a mixture of gasoline and oil down in the cylinders over there. And because this is so easily accessible and the carburetor's gone, I took and ran a bunch into each runner as well. So let's crank it over again just a little bit. I don't want to get too crazy because I want to leave that soak. Yeah, good. And cylinder number 3 is blowing big chunks out. Oh yeah, big time. Nice. Yeah, all that rust is coming out of there now. I'm going to get my wrench on there and see how it feels now. How does it feel? How does it feel? Still got some chitty bang bang, but that'll come out of there once it starts running. So, whoa, I got my hair cut. There we go. That's one thing I wanted to clarify at this point in the video is I don't care about this engine. I'm just doing this for fun and to share it with you. If I ruin it, I don't care. If it's got a bad knock in it, I don't care. If it doesn't run, I don't care. I'm just having fun. I would never do this on an engine that I was trying to preserve. I have a real hard time sometimes watching some of these channels that take an engine like this and call it a victory, which it is, but and get them all running and then drive them and say they're good to go. And I don't know. I have seen the internals of too many engines to be comfortable with that. But on this thing, I couldn't care less. So I just wanted to clarify that for you guys, that I'm just doing this for fun to see if I can. I have goals for this video, and we'll see if I can achieve them. Second thing, I know I've got a carburetor for this. I could take the one off the Sassy Swinger, but I think I got one I took off Sassy, and it's here somewhere. I don't know where, but I'll find it. It had issues.
But I've got tissues.
We can get it on there. I got to find a coil and do a little wiring, and that's it. The ground cable is still here. I'm sure I have a positive battery cable somewhere. Most of the wiring is all gone off this car anyway, but just enough to get it running. We just need a positive over to the coil and some way to crank the starter, and that's it. I don't have a lower crank pulley for this, so we can't put a water pump on it. None of that stuff. Easily anyway, and I am not going to go for this. It's just, can we get it running? Can we do it? And okay, another day older and deeper in debt. So I went up this morning. I had a couple minutes, and I dug around up in the warehouse, and I found that we have I believe this is the original intake off of Scoops, and it has the studs, and in the same tote there was a complete unused carb kit for that. So that's cool, because the base gasket is in there and we can use that. And if we need to rebuild that carburetor, there was issues. I don't remember what it was. Probably the float was sticking or something, but maybe the accelerator pump. Is there an accelerator pump in here? Should be. Let's see one. There's got to be. It's a carb rebuild kit. But anyway, for what we're going to do with this, it's fine. Just basically to fire it up. I just need a butterfly to keep the thing from, racing away at 10,000 RPM with no carburetor if I fire it up. So next things to look for is I need to get a coil, which I think I got a brand new one I can use. And I need to go upstairs and find a battery positive to run down to the starter. So there we go on that one. I've got a battery positive off of a minivan, I think is what it's actually off of. I don't know. I've stripped out so many cars over the years. Something newer, because I recognize, could be off a truck too, but I recognize the ignition off draw thing that was on vehicles from the 80s and 90s. So, all right, so I'll get the door opened up and we'll get out there. I'm going to put those studs out of that manifold first, but yeah, get things moving forward. All right, we got our starter in, we got our battery positive on, the carburetor's bolted down, our negative is hooked up, so we can come down here now and everything works. So we're good. Show that again. Come down here now and everything works. I sandblasted up the plugs and put some anti-seize on them, stuck them back in the holes. They're all tightened down. So let's see what kind of compression we've got now. Let's listen to it, see how much gittle it has in its hitch. That's not bad. I'm surprised that it's not got more of a that number 3 cylinder the way it was. So not bad. All we got left to do now is get a coil hooked up and see if we can get some sparkeroni, and maybe we can make some noise. Okay, I think we're ready. We've got coil. We have starter, gas, carburetor. It's got oil in it. I checked it, so maybe we won't. I didn't even clean the point, so we'll just see what happens. Okay. Interesting. We've got, I don't know if we have spark, but we definitely have the coil heating up. Okay, let's put a little more gas in it because it's got to be really dry. If it doesn't fire over real quickly here, we'll go ahead and come on. What the hell's going on here? Normally this thing just pours gas out. Well, no, helps if it isn't pinched. Our line is pinched here. Hold on. There we go. There we go. I got a feeling, well, no, I'm getting, if the coil wasn't sparking like that, then the points wouldn't be working. So I'm getting a little bit of smoke. Let's check the spark.
And there's the issue. I turned the motor over and we had 0 rotation in the distributor, so I pulled the distributor out and the plastic gear is sheared off. So we have issues. So I'm going to see if I can locate a distributor drive gear and get this thing put back together again and see what happens. I'm guessing that the distributor was seized up and just sheared the teeth off.
Drive gear off, broke it off, I should say, and the distributor will turn. So we just got to get it lubidobbered up, and she's already loosening up. So what it was if it had a bronzite gear on the bottom, oh, that's already so much better. If it had a bronze gear on it, it probably wouldn't have sheared. But my guess is from sitting, that distributor's stuck. And then when we got the motor to turn, it just sheared off the plastic gear. So hopefully I can get one of those somewhere. I don't have one. I had a distributor in the Slant 6 that I just sold, but that was a electronic distributor. This is points anyway. But I did test the points and they're working. So once the distributor is able to turn, we should be okay. Now, the good news is probably it should be, if I can even find a electronic distributor, the gear should be the same. I did turn the motor over, stuck my finger in carefully, and I could feel the cam turning. So we'll just have to time it back up again and go from there. But a little setback, so again, it's chipping away one bite at a time. But this is big progress. I'm going to make some phone calls and see if we can get a distributor gear. So I had to end up taking the distributor apart. It was stucker than a stuck thing. And I put my drill motor on it, and I got it spinning super free. Used some Croil on the top and on the bottom. So I think we're good. Now I'm just going to call around to some of my buddies and see if anybody happens to have an old Slant 6 distributor. My guess is this is an oil type, and it hadn't been oiled in a long time, and it just dried out and stuck. It could have been why this thing was parked. I'm almost wondering if that's what happened, but I obviously have no way of knowing. So got another distributor. My buddy John had one in a blown up Slant 6. The distributor's junk anyway, and it's an electronic one. I couldn't use it, but I'm going to be able to pull the gear off of that one and put it on that one, and we should be good to go. So I bought myself a set of punches as well, because all my punches have disappeared and gotten broken. So I should be able to drive that pin out without screwing things up too bad. And, the gear is hopefully not brittle. I'm concerned about that, but there's really no way around it except, well, there is. If I break the gear a little bit, I can always cross drill it differently and get a pin in there in a different direction. So that's good for this car. That's fine. So we have options is what I'm saying, but I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. In the meantime, I'm going to get some food, and we got a thunderstorm rolling in, and I don't like being in this building during a thunderstorm. So when the storm blows through, I'll be back, maybe, or it'll be another day. You never know. Well, let's see what we got. I'm going to gas up the carb again, make sure we're good. So we're just filling up the float bowl in the carburetor. Okay, it's over full. Dumping some gas down there. Go get my fire extinguisher and we'll give it a shot. We got our float bowl full. We have spark. Hopefully I got the timing right. Let's get our ignition turned on. There we go. And here we go. Let's see what we get. It's starting. Timing, I think, is a bit retarded. I may have that distributor off a tooth. Let's see, it would be that way. Let's see what happens. helps if you hook up the ignition. Here we go. We're getting close. I think the timing is okay. I mean, I've played around with it a little bit. Backfired out the exhaust a couple times. It's close. You can tell it wants to start. To me, it sounds like the timing is a bit retarded, but it's hard. It's really hard to tell. I had it starter bucking for a while, so I know that was too advanced, but I backed it off a bit, and I maybe need to advance it some more. It may be that the distributor is off a tooth, and it's. I'm also wondering if we have some stuck valves, if that could be part of our problem. I'm thinking about blowing the valve cover off of there and just making sure that, because when I was checking compression on number one to know where to time the distributor, sometimes it had compression and sometimes it didn't. And so that could be part of our issue. Is it's got some valves that are sticky, and it may want to try to start, but as soon as the engine starts spinning a little bit, those valves stick open and then it can't run. So I think that's the rabbit hole I'm going down. It's only 8 bolts to pull that valve cover off, and we'll see what's going on in there, and maybe we need to spray some lubrication down into the valves and get them loosened up a little bit. And here's the reality of engines that sit. Look at the amount of rust in here. This is one of the reasons I have such problems with so many of the Will It Run channels, because yeah, we may get it running, but it's going to destroy itself and not run for very long. I know I got stuck valves in the back for sure, so I'm going to get out my Croil, and I'm also going to get out an air hose and just try to blow a lot of this rust and dust out of here. We actually had a couple of rocker arms that were stuck, so I got those freed up now, and the battery's dying now, so I cranked it a little bit, and I've got the 50 amp charger on it, and it was like trying, and then the battery charger kicked out because it was overloaded. And so we're just going to take a break. We're going to go do something else for a half an hour, and then we'll come back and try again. I checked again to see if we had spark, and we do. Now that I have the valve cover off, I'm probably going to look at the valves to make sure that I'm on TDC, and we'll check the rotor, make sure it's pointing in the right direction one more time. And so we're getting there, is my point. We're making progress. It should run. I don't see why it wouldn't. You can see we got all of our rust blowing out of there now. It's nice and clean. Not perfect, but good enough. I'm going to make sure all the valves are closed, and we'll just let it sit. I did soak everything down with Croil again. Again, I just want to make sure that everything is, soaking in. I'm seeing oil come up from the bottom of the engine as we're cranking it, so that's good. That means our oil pump is working and we are getting oil pressure. Well, I've been charging it for a while. I'm realizing how much I absolutely hate modern battery chargers because, I don't know, it cut out at some point here. Other thing I was thinking was, I'm not sure I've been putting enough gas in the carburetor, so we're going to try some more. See what happens. Need more gas. See where my distributor is. We're pretty well advanced as far as I can go. Check my valves again. That one's stuck again. I don't know. I think I got it. 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 I think I So close. Well, I think in the interest of frustration, I'm going to get this piece of crap battery charger off of here, put on a real old school battery charger that actually charges, and these things are... Let it charge overnight, maybe all day tomorrow, and get a deep charge in this battery so that we can really grind on it again. You saw it almost started. I think my timing is okay. I could still be off a tooth. One of the challenges on a 6-cylinder is you can't... On a V8, you got a lot of move on the distributor. On a slant 6, there's not. But I timed the puff with the spark. I double-checked the timing mark against the valves. And then pull the distributor cap off, and it's always close enough that in my experience it should run. So that valve is sticking again also, so I'll soak that down some more. It'll go. I think it'll go. It's just going to be a matter of how much it has to fight. The other possibility is maybe the points and condenser aren't the best, and we may need to replace those. So it's all part of the sorting out. Realized that it's very likely that this condenser is weak. I have off camera tried starting it a couple times just to test a couple things, and if it's been sitting for a long time, it almost starts. I think I did include that in one video where it goes and then it won't keep running, and no matter what I do, it just gets worse and worse and worse. The more I thought about it, I thought, I got a feeling that our condenser is super saturated and breaking down after it's been hooked up for just a little bit length of time. So I called O'Reilly's this morning, and while I was out and about on business, I ran and picked up, they actually had a set, points and condenser, so I went and grabbed those, and I pulled the distributor, and we're going to go ahead and throw these in. So the other thing that I was going to mention, and I forgot to look it up, if I can find the original one here, the condenser that's in this, I don't know where I put it. Anyway, it's here somewhere. Oh, there it is. It is an Eklund, and it has a 50-year anniversary logo on it. So I'm going to go back and just try to age this thing real quick and just see how old it is. As I've looked at it, one of the things I noticed is the end of this is swollen. So I got a feeling this is probably the culprit as to what's causing our issue. If this gives you any indication, from what I could see online, Eklund was founded in 1924, which means that the 50th anniversary logo, which is on this, 1974. So this condenser could very well be 50 years old. Now, I'm not saying that car was parked 50 years ago, but it was parked for a long time. And I don't have any real way to know how long it was parked, but I would say probably for decades. So I wouldn't be surprised that this car had been parked for 30 years, 25 years. I don't know any way to find out, but from the condition of how rusted the thing is and so forth, I have a feeling this car was parked and it wasn't in nearly the horrible condition that it is now. And it just rotted into the ground. I'll do some digging and find out. My buddy John, whom I got it from, he bought it for parts for his 67 Belvedere 2, which you see here on the channel, or 66 or whatever. He's got a 66. But anyway, he bought it for parts. So anyway, that gives you an idea of how old these are. So I'm going to replace the points and condenser here, and we'll see how she goes. Maybe. There we go. Whew, that baby didn't want to come out of there, did it? I think our points are okay, but again, for something that's been sitting as long as this has, it's probably a good idea to, hit it right up with fresh parts. So let's take a minute before we open that. Let's make sure that it looks, yep, it looks right. Okay. We'll get these thrown in there and we'll go from there. We got them in there, gapped them at about 23 thousandths. Maybe 25. 20 was loose, but ballpark is enough. Spec is 17 to 23, so Normally I'd throw a dwell meter on there with a running car and set the points properly, but close enough. It'll run like that. So main thing is it's got good contact. We know the points are 100% closed there. So, all right, let's go throw this thing back in the car now and see how she does. Okay, everything's hooked back up. I'm going to prime this thing again. See what she does. Timing is off, I think. Oh, yeah. I think the timing is just a bit retarded, so it's probably a tooth off. Hopefully I jumped at a tooth now. We'll see. I'd like to get it to the point that it starter bucks, and then we back it off, and then I'll know it's pretty close. And now our battery's dead. So we'll be back in a couple hours after this stupid thing charges up. All right, I continued to play with it. Yes! All right. So we know our timing is off just a little bit. I've got the distributor turned around a little past the mark. And I'm going to pull the carburetor off and get that fixed. So we're actually getting fuel now. So that's what I expected to see happen. So I got to figure out where the distributor needs to be and so forth. But we know it runs. So a couple things. The accelerator pump diaphragm is shot, which we have. Pretty sure this is a Carter, although I could be wrong. But I know the one on Scoops is a Holly for sure. But I see a couple of different gaskets here. So fortunately, we have everything we need to go through this. So I'm just going to take an air hose and blow everything out, and we'll get this thing fixed up. And then while we're at it, we'll make the fuel line to put on there so we can hook up a fuel line to it. I don't think my gas tank is high enough, but I'll hold it up here to fill the bowl for now. I'm noticing all kinds of oil over there. I'm wondering if the oil filter has a leak in it. So if I do get it to start, I'm not going to run it very long. That should have it. Let's give her a listen, see if she's full. Yep, I hear the fuel accelerator pump squirting. All right, let's see what happens. That thing is pouring out oil like oil. Holy crap. Yeah, we got issues. It's got to be the oil filter's rusted out. Oh, yeah, it's got a big hole in it right there, I think. I don't understand why. It's a 1970s Kmart oil filter. It's been on there for, 50 years. I don't know why it would be rusted out. That Wix filter is the one. I bought that for the GTS and it was too long and I had to go back and buy the shorty. So let me take a look. 515XP. There's our oil filter. That's how badly I had to crush it to get it off of there. But it's got a big old rust hole right there. So that's why we oiled the under chassis, which is good because the car is so rusty, and that's going to be good rust prevention. So apparently when I was taking the oil filter out, which took about 3 men and a boy and about 175,000 foot-pounds of torque, I busted the distributor cap. So I've got to run and get one of those. I'm going to look in Sassy and see if there's one there, but I'm pretty sure there's not. I just looked through all my spare parts from Scoops, and there's nothing up there. And here again is an instance when I got rid of that Slant 6 that had a good distributor in it. Runs like a champ, but it pumps oil out faster than I can put it in. So to fix that, I'm going to have to take this in the shop, jack the car up and see what's going on. I don't know if maybe the oil pressure sending unit is missing. I can't get under there now. There's probably about 178.6 gallons of oil. I thought it was the oil filter leaking, so I changed the oil filter again. We know the other oil filter leaked that had a rust hole in it. I put a new Wix on it, and it was still pouring oil out. And I went in the back room and found a used oil filter off of the 318 put on there, and should be the same filter, and still leaking like a sieve. So in order to do anything more with it, I'm going to have to get it in the shop and make some decisions on whether or not it's worth continuing. I did, while I was working on it, I did check, and the clutch is absolutely stuck beyond stuck. Well, for giggles and other things, I decided to go ahead and pull the oil filter off, and it had blown the seal out on that one also, which tells me maybe the oil pump check valve is stuck. Either that or there's something wrong with the threads on the oil filter thing, and it's not allowing the filter to thread on completely. So I may pull that off and take a look at it. It's just it's quite a deep well socket. I don't have one. So, well, regardless, that's it for today. This is all just for fun and to get you guys an episode and really to present a realistic view of so many of the will it run stuff. What does it really take? What's the stuff they leave out? What's the stuff that you don't see behind the scenes that they have to do? And I'm not showing every single detail, but I'm definitely walking you through the stuff that I'm doing and the snafus and the things I'm running into that aren't working and that kind of stuff. But I mean, it runs really good. It's just a matter of I would need a 55-gallon tanker of oil on top of the car, and I could probably drive it a whole 2 miles before I ran it completely out of oil. Well, I did my research, and I'm going to go further with it. From what I can tell, there's just a cap screw, a hex cap that you unthread off of the oil pump, and hopefully you can work the check valve out of the pump and get it cleaned up and free. It's a common problem. There's 2 ways it can go. One, it can be stuck so you have no oil pressure, or this way where it overpressures. So I'm glad this one's this way. So yeah, we'll continue on with this. This is turning into quite the epic episode, but I'm having fun with it, and it'll be a few days again before I can get back at it to take it to the next level. But it's running. That's huge progress from a swamp car that we had to drag out with a tractor that had no front wheel on it and no spindle and no upper control arm and, well, all the stuff you saw in the beginning. So what we have here is an oil pump off of a Slant 6 that we need to check out and go through and see what's going on with it and get it cleaned up if possible and make it function. We'll use a little diesel fuel and that kind of stuff to get it cleaned up here in a bit, or some kerosene, or there'll be some kind of liquid we'll use. The motor this came out of was blown up, so we have to obviously be concerned about that. That's why I want to take this thing all apart and get it all cleaned up and see what we have. So if you watch this gear set, right now it's stuck. I can't turn it any further this way. It's stuck. But it'll come around. And that same gear set, watch that, is going to come around. And as soon as it rolls into that, it sticks again. Yep, there she goes. Whoops, she fell back in on me. There we go. And which lobe was it again? Let's double check. This one right here. Okay, so let me make a scratch on that so I can analyze that thoroughly. Okay, sort of a scratch. Now we can get that outer part of the roller vane out of there, or not roller vane, but the rotor set, gear set. Oh, there's all kinds of debris and dirt in there and rust, so that could be part of it. Well, the last thing to do will be to put the oil filter on it and put the oil pressure sending unit on it, but I'm going to wait so that I have more wiggle room when I go to install this on the vehicle. Well, this is the first time this car has ever actually been in the shop, even though it's just, peeking in a little bit. I went ahead and got the distributor lined up and everything so that I could pull the distributor out, got things so I can access the oil pump. I'm not even sure I'm going to need to. I was thinking about taking the motor mount out and jacking the motor up on the passenger side, but I don't even know if I need to. Looks like I can access everything pretty easily. So difference between an A and a B body is the width, and you can definitely get at things. So let me take you over there and show you what we got to do. I got the timing marks all lined up and marked the distributor and all that so that it'll be easy to reassemble when it's time, so I can access the pump. This has a shield on it, and that's a pain in the butt, but I think it's just a couple of the mounting bolts that hold that on there, so we can go ahead and buzz those bolts out of there and then hopefully be able to access everything else easily. At least that's the plan, so we will see. I haven't really reached down in there yet to see what I'm dealing with, and I got a big rusty shard of metal right there. I want to make sure I get that out of the way because I know it's going to shred my forearm. I mentioned it being in the shop for the first time, but I also didn't mention that the video, the time lapse that you saw me moving it around, was several days ago now. I haven't been able to get back out here and work on anything, much less this project. But I had a few minutes today, and I thought, well, let's shove her in and see how it goes. Well, I was wrong. It wasn't my forearm. I forgot to pound that piece of rusty metal in, so I got the back of my wrist. So that's nice.
Am I a prophet or what?
Our shield is out of the way now. It was kind of a pot licker because there was a bunch of gravel in there keeping me from getting the socket on, but there's just two more bolts down under that part, and so we'll get those out of there, and then there's just two in the back. I'll show you the other pump. So currently we've removed this one and this one. We're going to get this one and this one next. I really wasn't planning on going this far, but it's going better than I expected. I thought I was going to have to jack all this up, and I needlessly brought the cherry picker up from the back room because I thought I was going to have to jack the motor up or jack the car up. And oh, it's wonderful. A B body's just got so much more room. I'm so used to working on A bodies. And I think this is the first B body I've ever worked on with a slant 6 in it. So that's, that's unique also. It's always the way of it. You think you're going to get it, and then you don't, because your tool's just a little short is what I'm trying to say. So back to a deep well to get this last one out. Okay, here we go. This should do it. Well, Holly G. Wally. There we go. We're stuck. Come on now, there. Yeah. It's a miserable place for you guys to see, but it's glued on there as I expected it to be. I'm sure I got all the bolts. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, yep. So let me get a little. Boy, she's tight, but it did move. Now hopefully I can. Oh man. There's got to be one in every crowd. I think I'll need to get my big channel locks. There, they're right here. Okay, good. I really wish you guys could see better, but it's not much in there to see. It's I'm trying to stay out of your way, but if I can't get the work done, there's nothing to see either. So you know how it is. There she goes. You would think that thing has been in there for 50, 60, or 70 years. Okay, maybe not 70. Oops, don't scratch the paint, Mike. Probably should clamp her down one more time. I'm not really trying to save the oil pump itself because there we go. Because, who cares? None of this is important. And if I was going to be actually using this engine, I would be putting a new pump on it. So let me get a pryage to, pry it out of the block now that it's loose. This is the highly recommended way to not remove an oil pump on one of these. I'm just wiggling it. I'm getting some space in there. Just working it nice and slow. But if this was if this was something I was trying to actually repair for real, I would be doing this differently. But I'm not, so I'm not. You know what I'm saying? We're wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I got a song in my head, something about wiggle, 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 jiggle, 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 and I don't know. There's stuff. Oh man, that thing is in there tight. Whew! It's like it's never been out of there or something. If there was two of us, we could, wiggle it and pry at the same time, but maybe I am working it. Yep, I am, because I just lost my leverage. I moved the world. That works. Okay, so I'm prying it up, and then, prying it out and back at the same time with this pry bar now. There we go. Man, that thing was in there tight. Hokey diners. But at least it's, one of the hottest, muggiest days of the year. Oh, you little butter. Yeah, I can get all the bolts and everything out. But the oil pump won't come out because it hits the lower control arm where the torsion bar goes in. So I am going to have to jack the motor up a little bit. I might not even need to take the mount off. There might be enough slop in there to, to just get it out of there is what I'm saying. Oh, man, I am just drenched with sweat. Anyway, I had to jack the car up to take the motor mount off, because on the slant 6 on this car, the motor mount bolt is straight down because I can't quite get it up high enough to get the oil pump out. So my original plan was good, so I didn't waste my time bringing the cherry picker out. But I got to remember that to put this back in, I have to reverse this entire process. So I'm afraid that putting that motor mount back in is going to be a pain in the katukas, but we'll get it. We will get it. We always do. So, yeah, I'm going to bring the cherry picker over again. We'll lift that up, hopefully. And the other thing that happened was the hand fabricated torsion bar that we made for this car fell out. I'm going to have to put that back in. Otherwise, the car is going to be, on the one side. You remember that? You remember the hand fabricated torsion bar from that episode way a long time ago? There it is. There's a 2x4 that I stuck in the suspension stop to hold that side of the car up. And my predictions are probably going to be accurate, that getting that motor mount back in there is going to be a pain in the katukas. But it's a whole lot easier getting the oil pump in and out now. So there we go. There she is. Oh, she did have a gasket on her. So there's that. And I really am curious about this check valve if it's stuck. So we may pull that apart and take a look. But regardless, we have the other oil pump. So we got to get that surface all cleaned up. And we'll put some Acompucky on there to get that other pump on. So that I'd like to accomplish that and get the engine back down into the chassis tonight, so that I can get it out of here again and get it out of the way. And then tomorrow will be another day, and I will have time to work on it tomorrow, I hope. But let me get my gasket scraper and scrape off this 7,000-year-old gasket. Our oil pump is installed. So, I think I'm going to spin a filter on there, but I'm going to dump some oil in the pump to prime it 100% just to be sure. And we'll go from there. Oil pump is on. The motor mount is put back in place. All I had to do was take a big 2x4 and go across that little tie thing that goes between the core support and the K-frame, and just on that special thing that I machined and welded up for the front of the crank to break the motor loose, just boom, and that popped it right in place. So that was good. We actually looks like the motor's sitting straight in there now. It used to sit really crooked. It's still a little crooked, but now I dumped oil in it. So the next thing we need to do is throw the distributor in it. And yeah, I think we're getting closer. Well, if all be well, if I got the distributor in right, if we got the oil pump fixed, if we check this oil one more time. This should be another major step forward. We're a half a quart low, but we can fix that later. All right, let's see, our ignition's hooked up. We'll choke her a little bit. Crap, we're not leaking any oil. Oh yeah, we're out of gas. Our gas tank is hanging crooked. It's just not hanging very well there. Okay, there we go. That should do it. Makes a difference. I can't run it too long because I don't have a cooling system on it yet. There is coolant in the block though, so if we're getting gas in there or not. Maybe that float is sticking a little bit. Shouldn't. It's brand new. Well, let's see what happens. Yeah, the accelerator pump isn't working very good. I think I need to get some more gas in that, or else we need to hook it up through the fuel pump. But let's just try putting some more gas in there. Got things filled back up again, and I took a little time to put a couple heater hoses on and things just to get things so that I can start getting towards putting some coolant in. I hope I have a couple radiator hoses that are going to work for this. We may or we may not. One way or another, we'll get some coolant in this and see if we can get the water pump circulating so that we can run it a bit longer. But I wanted to start it up for you again. But I do want to fill the carburetor up. It's probably enough. I don't want to leave that gas on because it will, like I said, it was just pouring in gas. So I need to take the top of that carburetor back off again and see what's going on in there. But that's not tonight's project. Okay, let's hook up our igniter. Ignition-roni. Must have flooded it again. Okay, I must have flooded it again. Well, I'll be dipped. Oh, helps if the coil is not grounding out against the motor because it fell over. I'm not saying that's all of it, but it won't help. Come on. Well, that's not good. All right, let me see what's going on. I think the issue was actually the wire feeding over to the coil was shorting out. Last week, one day when I was working on it, I bolted it under the valve cover by accident. And it must have created a bald spot. So hopefully she'll fire up now. Maybe it's just camera shy. I'm quite impressed with how tight this motor is. Now, I don't know whether it's tight because it's not oiling properly and it's got plugged oil passages and all of that kind of stuff, or if it's just tight because the motor's in pretty good shape other than the one cylinder that was rusted, cylinder number 3. But when I shut it off, it stops just like that. And that's quite impressive to me. It doesn't go, it just and shuts right off. So that's pretty cool. Smokier than a smoky thing as far as blow by. I had a PVC maybe not working. PCV, sorry, not PVC. Positive crankcase ventilator. Yeah, that's it. I get those two confused all the time. Yeah, so I think the next steps will be to see if we can get some kind of cooling on this thing, and that way we can run it longer and find out if it's going to blow up or if it's going to just keep running and getting better and better. I got the fan back on. I got another couple bolts to put in that. I lost one somewhere, no surprise. We've got an alternator on there now. We have the belt that was on it, so we can put that back on, I hope. And that should work for us, so and hopefully we'll be able to put the radiator back in and get some coolant in it. I know the belt is here. I took it off. I mean, it was just laying down there, so I needed to make sure that it's the right one. If not, I'll dig around. I've got a ton of belts, but we're making more progress than I was expecting. I'm already sweaty and wet, so I've got a little microclimate going on, and I thought, what the heck, let's just move forward with it. So, progress.
Well, we have some issues here that concern me. The fan is really close to that radiator, and what bothers me is if we're trying to drive this, that motor could be flexing, and we could hit the radiator. Now, I don't care about the radiator so much, but I think what I want to do is go in there and take that spacer out of the fan so we can move that fan back and give us a lot more clearance. It's not going to cool as efficiently, but I think it'll be a better overall because we have no idea how much that motor's going to move around, and we could have issues there. There is no transmission cross member. We have a couple motor mounts. There's no frame rails on this car, so it could be a real problem. There we go. That gives us lots of room. We're a lot tighter to the lower crank pulley, but I'm not worried about that because there won't be any flex there. But with this motor and transmission and lack of frame and cross member and everything in this car, when this motor, under load, it could really twist around in there. So there we go. All right, now let's get some hoses on this thing and see if we can get some liquid in it. They fit, so that's good. Going to get some clamps on them now. Hopefully I can find just some screw clamps so I don't have to use these turds. I hate these things, but they'll work, but I just don't prefer them. But I could, I guess, use the screw clamp on the hardest one, which is this one here, and then just use the spring clamps on the rest if we have to. Again, this is never going to be a car that's on the road. I just want to get a cooling system on it so we can run this motor longer. Clicking along pretty good here. It is already hot and muggy today. Whew, man, ridiculous. Just like that, we're all hosed up, clamped up. Should be good to go. We're used one screw clamp because that's all I had, and then hopefully our bypass hose here, which is original, will last for this. We won't put the radiator cap on tight, so it won't get any pressure. So let's start out by just putting some water in it and seeing what happens, because who knows, we may dump water in this thing and it may just pour right into the oil. I don't think so, because this had coolant in it. It had antifreeze in it when we tore it apart. So it's probably fine, but you never know. You gotta do what you gotta do, and hopefully the thermostat isn't stuck. Didn't think about that, but we'll deal with that if and when the time comes. So green grill the rushes, ho. Find some place to hang this. Be nice so I could see, but oh well, it'll work. Let's get some water in it. Well, it's pouring on my foot more than it's pouring in the radiator. I think we have a huge leak. Yes, we do. Well, so be it. It's weird. It must have got broken being sitting out. But at least we'll have some liquid in it. Didn't want to start, but it's running good now. We had a terrible thunderstorm last night. Even though I had the hood down, it still got wet under here, so I'm guessing the distributor was a little wet. And the radiator all of a sudden stopped leaking, so I don't know what's up with that. Maybe it was just pouring out from me filling it, but I didn't realize it. I think if I'm going to do this right, I want to pull that radiator back out and see what I can do to patch that up so it's not leaking so bad. I don't know what happened to it, but maybe it did leak and I just didn't know it. But it did have antifreeze in it, so I don't know. And maybe when I was taking the hose off or putting the hose on, it broke the bottom neck loose. But let's pull it back out and see what we got to do to get that to, I don't mind if it leaks a little bit, but
I can't put enough water in it to let this thing run long enough. I can already hear it's boiling in the block, so I don't want to do that. Have the radiator capped off, kind of crude but effective, and put some air pressure to it. Try to get this over here like this and like that so it can lay flat. And I can't put any air pressure to it the way it is right now, but I can show you that from here to here, this radiator split. That's why when the coolant level gets up so high, it just starts pouring out like crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. We're just going to cap that tube off, and we got to rip out all the fins and stuff, but we'll get that fixed, and then we'll see if we can get it plugged up so it's, like 90% less leaking. So I soldered up the best I could, but these things are so brittle that I just decided it's not worth it. So I did an old school trick here that I've done to patch up radiators temporarily. I don't know if anybody else has ever done this or not, but I was checking it for leaks with pressure, right? So I put some RTV on this Rinzone Victor Ryan stuff that I got from John, and if I put pressure on this to make sure I got it leak checked, it's going to blow the RTV out, right? So the way that I leak check this is by the opposite, by using a vacuum. So I'll show you what that looks like. So what I've done is take my stethoscope and put my ears on it, and I've got my vacuum hooked up, my vacuum cleaner hooked up, and I'll show you that in a second, to one of the inlets on the radiator. And I make sure that my petcock is closed, and I turn the vacuum on. It's going to be really loud. And then I listen with the stethoscope to hear if I hear any sucking air. And where I do, I just apply a little more RTV. Now, this is a twofold fix because once the RTV gets over it, the vacuum tends to suck that RTV in. So we're going to have to leave this sit and dry for quite a while, of course, because we don't want to put any pressure on it. We're not going to leak check it anymore with air. But I think overall, well, I've seen this work before, it'll stop the liquid from running out, and that's our goal. This radiator's junk. It needs a recore, or at least to be taken to a professional to be better fixed. We had 2 radiator cores that were completely gone, and every time I would try to clean them up, they would just keep splitting and splitting and splitting, so they were beyond repair. Let's turn our vacuum on. I'll show you what I mean. So we're applying a vacuum to this radiator right now, and then I take and I just listen. And if I hear any sucking, I know at that point it's either federal government or there's a place where we need the RTV. Before, I was blowing air pressure in here. If I did that, I would blow the RTV off. So instead, I took a cap off, and I just hooked my vacuum hose up like this and apply some pressure or some vacuum in that thing. And I did check it over here. I opened my petcock up to make sure that I could hear the, and I could, and we're good to go. So I'm going to let that sit while I go get some lunch, and then we'll come back out and we'll get it stuck back in the car. Well, in order to take this to the next level, now I want to get a gas pedal on it, which means I bought a universal throttle cable from Speedway, and got to do a little modifying to make it work because it's universal, but it's actually something I'll probably use on the car in the long term. So we need to adapt it to work with the gas pedal. So I gotta modify this a little bit to get it in here, and then we can get it hooked up to here, and then we can determine where we need to cut it in order to make it work for this application. So let's get that done. In order to make this work properly, I'm going to need to open this where the cable goes in here up a little bit. I suppose the other option is I could peel the casing off of this, but let's see. 267. Yeah, probably need to peel some of the case off so that I get this down to being more like 230. So let me clean this up about that much on the end, get some of the black rubber off of there, and then we'll see where we're at to being able to fit that into the part that I just set down. I can't find into here so that it's a proper throttle cable end. So there we go. We got that cleaned off now. So that makes it significantly smaller. So let's mic that, or caliper it, or whatever this is. So
225. Okay, that's good. So I think we should have more than enough room. So let's see, what size drill bit? 225. Go over here to my chart. So it'd be about a number 1 or 7/32. Very good. That's probably good enough. We could go in a little deeper, but you know, how far in are we? Yeah, could go in a little bit more. Let's bring ourselves back to our 0 mark. And we'll go 3/4 of an inch total in. Don't want to go any further than that. That gives us good penetration there now, so I'm comfortable with that. So we can put this in here now, like so. Put our insert in, and then determine where we want to be. Okay, so that we can put our end on here to know, what kind of length we need on both ends. So I think we need to cut this casing on that end. We'll cut off probably 2 inches, and that should give us plenty of engagement here and still leave us plenty of there. I'm just ballparking it, but we'll start with that. So let me pull this out of here again, and we'll cut a couple inches off, and we'll see how we do. So I think we're close. I need to be able to put the end of the cable on there at the gas pedal. That gives me some material. But I think I want to take off like another inch here. I hope that's not a mistake. But I don't want to crimp this end on, because once I do, it's going to be really difficult to get this on and off to shorten the end, and I'll have to, I just don't want to do that. So I got to get this right the first time. I think I'm going to take another little bit, but let's try it on the car just to see. I've got things kind of roughed in. It's not tightened down tight yet, but my gas pedal is working now. So, oops, so it was. I got to do a little something different on this end over here. But anyway, you get the idea that it's working, and it's opening it full throttle. So that's as good as we're going to do, I think. And I got a little bit of slack in it. So I can go ahead and figure out how I want to do this. Yeah, probably I need to put the gas pedal in the car and then feed it out through into the carburetor. So here's what we're dealing with inside. Everything's good. Gas pedal works. I need to add an electrical switch for starting, and I need to add an ignition switch. I also need to pry the seat up into place because it's down too low on this side, so we'll do that. And we'll probably find, we'll fabricate a floorboard is what I'm going to say. But look at how this, she's weight reduced, and it's pretty cool. If you've watched the Stitches Challenger series, you've known that it has taken me like 9 months to fabricate floor pans for that car. This went much faster, and I think it's, it's going to be nice, and it's a good floorboard, and we should be good. I was hoping to get the seat up a little higher on this side, but, it is what it is. So I want to clean out some of just the junk in there, and at least take a broom and sweep crap out. So I need to back the car up, and that way it'll be a little more pleasant to try and work in there. I was hoping to put a board under the seat to hold the seat up. I still may try to muck with that, but we'll see. There we go. We've detailed the interior.
quite nicely now. So I'm happy with that. The new floorboards are working good. I put some new support structure in for the seat, so that works nice. So now we just need to get our electrical switches. I don't know if I have an on-off switch. I may have to run to town and get one. So, but I got the car back outside so I could blow everything out and sweep it out, and that's done. The other thing I want to do is take my gas line and hook it up to the fuel pump, because the fuel pump does work, which means I need to put a short piece of rubber hose in there as well. I don't have my toggle switch yet, but it occurred to me that I can just run this ignition wire into the cab for now and hook it up that way. So I've got that done. I've got a starter button hooked up, so I guess let's see what happens. I'm going to have to grab that little green wire, pull it up here. Yep, there we go. That's not really the way I wanted, I guess, but why wouldn't it work? Maybe it is a good way to do it. All right, let's see what happens. Yeah, good. Most excellent. She's a race car. Wow. It has been a long day. The only thing I have left to do now is the fuel system, and I do have to run to town because I don't have any hose clamps. I want to get this fuel tank not being gravity fed. I want to run it through the fuel pump. I felt on the pump, and it does suck. I don't know if the diaphragm is blown and it's going to put oil and gas in the crankcase, and I don't care about any of that. It's going to do the job good enough for what I need to do, I think. So I'd rather not gravity feed it if I can help it for a couple of reasons. Number one, the float does seem to be leaking a little bit. I thought I was going to have to tear that carburetor apart, but so far today it's working better, especially since I hooked up the vacuum advance to the distributor. That makes a huge difference in throttle response. And, we want to be able to run the quarter mile. It's important. I'm going to run to town, get some hose clamps. I got a couple other things I need to pick up anyway. So this radiator has been about, since I glued it, it's been about 3.5 hours, give or take. I want to give that just a little bit more time before I put liquid in it. Hopefully that's going to do the job. But it's one of the things I wanted to comment is, if you think about everything we've done, okay, we have done systems on this car. So the first one was the power system, meaning getting the engine that was frozen unstuck and getting it spinning. Then we had to deal with the ignition system. Then we had to deal with the fuel system. So we had cranking, we had valves and all kinds of other issues, but cranking, engine spinning, so the power system of the engine itself. We had electrical, we had fuel. Then we ended up having to deal with the cooling system. We also had oiling system issues. And this is the real world of, as far as I'm concerned, of a car that's been parked for 40 years. I'm not holding anything back here. I'm sharing pretty much everything. I'm not sharing, this movie would be 12 hours long if I shared, in detail of every time I had to go back and do something. But I'm wanting you to get the feel, and I'm wanting you to get the idea of, will it run and drive? I'm going to go out there on a Friday night and I'm going to be home with it, drive, 400, 500, 600 miles or even 20 miles on Saturday. Yeah, it can be done. And I'm not dissing any of the channels that do that. Please don't misunderstand that. I'm not putting anybody down. If that's what they're doing, that's what they're doing. I've been mucking around with cars for 40 years, and I'm telling you, will it run? This is pretty normal when you're taking a car that's been parked this long in this circumstance, and you're just going to continue to deal. I mean, we still have a clutch throwout bearing that's stuck on the input shaft of the transmission. Now, I'm not choosing to deal with that, and you'll see why in a little bit. So I'm going to stop yakking, and I'm going to run to town and get some hose clamps, and we'll be back. And I want to charge this battery for a while and get everything zipped up, and then we'll be back. Whew. Well, I've certainly had a burn on to get this done. It's been about 5 hours now, so I think that Permatex is probably, or whatever that stuff is probably dry enough to add some liquid to the radiator. The only other thing I need to do is the fuel system. I just got back from town, so we'll get that done. I did dig out an air filter, but I'm missing the the little springy thing to hold the air cleaner down, so I'm not going to worry about that. One thing I wanted to mention is if you do a radiator like this, understand this is not a permanent repair. It's a temporary repair. You don't want any pressure. So I take my radiator cap and I just try to rip out the rubber seal on the bottom so that it does not pressurize the system. So it's a zero pressure system at this point. Again, this is a temporary fix. It's not a permanent fix. So I wanted to make that clear. If you do the RTV repair on your radiator, that's not a permanent solution, but it will get you by. All right, let's let her warm up a little bit, see what she does. My radiator may be leaking a little bit, but it's not leaking like it was, so that's the main thing. So we can run it. That's the goal here. Oh, and we can actually start it inside the car. How cool is this? Gonna have to get some more water. It sucked it down. We've definitely got a small leak over here, but it's not too bad. I think what I might do is pick up a bottle of stop leak to throw in it, just because I want to keep coolant in it in the winter so it doesn't freeze and break the block. So we'll, but this is good enough for now. At least I can touch it around and not too worried too much about it. I'm hoping it'll warm up enough now that the thermostat will actually open. We'll see. So I'll be back in a bit, let you know what we find. Well, I just checked and the thermostat definitely is working, so we're in good shape. Yeah, we're dripping some water, but I'm fine. Like I said, I'll pick up some stop leak and we'll get this switched out. I've got a 5-gallon jug of antifreeze over there from other cars that's pretty good. Not good enough to put in a good car, but for something like this, it'll work great and save a bunch of money. And our fuel system is done. I just mounted the fuel tank right there. Runs down to the fuel pump and then up through a filter and into the carburetor, and it works good. Nothing leaks that I can tell except the radiator, of course, and we've already talked about that. So all of our systems are go. Whew. All right. Well, there'll be more. Don't go away. Well, we're in the car. We have everything hooked up under the hood. Let's fire this baby up. It is the next day after the last video you saw. Let's see how she starts.
happened?
The block of wood fell out of the suspension on this side that I had it in there, so the whole thing crashed on this side down. So I didn't want to push it any further because I didn't want to, tire was scraping on the fender. So. Questioning whether I had the gas on or not because it's so jerky. I couldn't, and the gas pedal's so light, it just kept, every time the car would jerk, my foot would come off the gas pedal, and then I'd step on it again, and then the car would jerk, and my foot would come off the gas pedal. Because, with no clutch, you just have no ease into anything. So. I see what happened. The frame is so rusty that the bouncing of the car actually crushed the frame. So the block of wood was in there, but it's not holding it anymore. So I gotta figure out a different way to prop that up. So that's what's going on. If it lasts 30 seconds, we'll be fine. Rest in peace.
Or pieces.
Oh, I never did turn the gas back on. Okay. Very good. Dale, as a real famous guy once said, it is finished. I think success was breaking the motor loose. More success was getting the motor running. And I think the drive yesterday up, to turn the car around, and the drive today until the frame collapsed, that's just like cherries on top of all the other success. Obviously, we don't intend to drive this car anywhere, and if you're not familiar with the project, there's a whole playlist on this project, starting from where this movie started in the very beginning with taking it out of the swamp and so forth. But we take you through the plans for the car. The plan for the car, the only reason I bought the car, as you can see inside from the movie, the floor is gone, the frame is gone, and that's actually what happened. The passenger side front wheel was ripped right out of the frame, and the upper control arm was rusted in half, and so we put all of that stuff off of a Charger on there that we had extras from the 69 Charger. All of that was to just be able to make it move around. But the reason I bought the car is I don't intend to repair this car like I am the Challenger and the Duster, where we're rebuilding unibody frame rails. I could, but I really don't intend to. In that playlist, there's an episode where we got about $10,000 worth of steel donated. We're going to make a frame table. We've got some big heavy quarter wall 2x3 box tube. This is going to be a supercharged 426 wedge drag car with a full tube chassis. And so the only reason I wanted this car was for the body. That's it. It's complete. all the trim, the lights, the grill is good. Everything is there. We need some different bumpers. I was talking with my buddy John yesterday. He's got a set of fiberglass fenders that will fit this. And so that's kind of the direction that we're going. Our interim is probably going to be throwing that dual quad tunnel ram on that 426. We've got a 413 that we're going to be punching out to 426, and that's the motor we're going to do. There's episodes on all of that. So I'll insert a picture of the concept of the finished car. The name of the car, the name of the movie is The Golden Mullet. If you're familiar with the history of Detroit, there is still in existence a very famous 1967 Belvedere 2, which is the two-door hardtop. This is a two-door post. A silver one that had a 426 Hemi in it that was a street-dominating race car back in the day called the Silver Bullet. And we thought this was a great way to pay tribute to it and make this its nerdy cousin, the Golden Mullet. So that's the plan for the car. I appreciate you watching this through. It was a ton of fun. It's been a ton of work over a couple of years, mostly in the last 8 weeks to 10 weeks probably. I don't normally do episodes like this, but I thought it would just be fun to see if we could take this swamp car and drive it around. So thank you so much for watching. I will ask, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing that. There is, I don't even know how many episodes on the channel anymore. We're in our 4th season. We're wrapping up our 4th season right now. There's probably another month or two by the time this airs. And we'll be going into our 5th season real strong. The channel continues to grow. The point of our channel here is hand fabrication. We hand fabricate unibody parts. We hand fabricate floor pans and everything pretty much that you would need to redo a unibody car. We make most of it by hand. There are some exceptions when we're trying to get something done quickly, but our Stitches Challenger is literally hand fabricated. 80% of the work that's been done on that car is hand fabrication with sheet metal to make unibody frame rails and floor pans and trunk extensions and all kind of other stuff. We do paint work, we do engine work, we do body work, we do the sheet metal work. We try to be a one-stop shop here. I do it all myself, very little help from the outside, and that's what this channel is all about. What can the average person do with a very low to moderate income in their home shop if they're just determined to make it happen and not spend very much money? So thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And if you enjoy this movie, drop it down there in the comments. I'm thinking about doing maybe 1 or 2 things like this a year. It's a ton of work on the editing side as well, but this is all around. It's been a real fun project. So thank you for watching. And if you're new here, there's something else that's the most important thing of anything we do, because I don't want you to forget. It's really important. Wrong.